Hi, Paul. Good evening.
Good evening, teacher.
Hi, how was your day?
Good.
All right, that's good to know. Can you please explain me what did you do today?
Today I come to my work. I don't know how to say. I take some muestras. How do you say muestras?
Pau, no te puedo escuchar bien. No sé si es porque, no sé si estás con micrófono, pero te escucho medio como si estuvieras tapando el micrófono.
No. Qué raro.
No, te sigo escuchando medio como si estuvieras tapando el micrófono, tal vez.
Okay. Mira.
A ver, vamos a intentar a ver. Right? What else? ¿Qué era la palabra que no podías entender? Creo que me dijiste. Hello.
Teacher, can you listen me?
Yes, a little bit better. All right.
Okay.
So continue, please.
Okay, I come to work and take some, I don't know how to say muestras.
What is the word?
Okay, this to work. So,
No, ¿cuál es la palabra que no entiendes o que no puedes
muestra.
pronunciar?
No, I don't know how to say muestra.
Muestras como samples.
Okay, some examples for the beer. I do many analyze the beer.
All right.
And then
All right. So
I do I have a panel to take ID. I have a panel that they taste the beer. So I prepare some examples to different flavors.
all right. Some samples.
And they need to taste and to smell and say what they feel.
All right.
Yes, this is.
All right. Pau, no sé por qué, pero te escucho un poco mal, pero se te puede entender, pero es un poquito complicado. Right? No te puedo entender todo porque no sé si es tu micrófono, pero te escucho como si estuvieras tapando. No sé si está mal tu micrófono o algo así. No se escucha como tus demás compañeros, digamos. Right? But, well, we're going to continue, right? I hope now your microphone works, right? So we're going to continue, right? We're going to practice our listening. This is going to be the last one, right? This is the most, one of the most difficult that we have, right? So pay attention to it, right? All right, I'm going to read, right? This is a part of a lecture in a biology course, right? So here I go. All right. Human beings aren't the only animals that use tools. It's generally recognized that other animals use tools as well. Use them naturally in the wild, without any human instruction. But can we say that an object is a tool? Well, it depends on your definition of a tool. In fact, there are two competing definitions, a narrow definition and a broad one. The narrow definition says that a tool is an object that's used to perform a specific task, but not just any object. To be a tool, according to the narrow definition, the objects gotta be purposefully changed or shaped by the animal or human, so that it can be used that way. It's an object that's made. Wild chimpanzees use sticks to dig insects out of their nest, but most sticks lying around won't do the job. They might be too thick. For example, so the sticks have to be sharpened so they'll fit into the hole in an ant hill or the insect nest. The chimp pulls off the leaves and chews the stick and trims it down that way until it's the right size. The chimp doesn't just find the stick, you could say, it makes it in a way. But the broad definition says an object doesn't have to be modified to be considered a tool. The broad definition says a tool is any object that's used to perform a specific task. For example, an elephant will sometimes use a stick to scratch its back. It just picks up a stick from the ground and scratches its back with it. It doesn't modify the stick. It uses it just as it's found. And it's a tool under the broad definition, but under the narrow definition, it's not, because, well, the elephant doesn't change it in any way. All right, that's all, Paula. Right, so I'm going to share my screen. All right. So this is gonna be your question, right? All right. Using points and examples from the talk, describe the two different definitions of tools, right? Given by the professor. Do you get it?
Okay.
Oh, can you listen to me?
Yes, teacher.
All right. So one more time, this is gonna be your question, right? Well, your instruction. Using points and examples from the talk, describe the two different definitions of tools given by the professor, right? So in this one, you have to express, you have to give a little bit of definition or what is a tool. Well, it is actually a short one, right? As you heard. So you have to give me examples of it. I mentioned two examples. The one was the chimpanzee, right? Wild chimpanzees, and the other one was the elephant, right? So we have to describe what is the definition of a tool. I mentioned two different ones, right? So from now, you're going to have 20 seconds. Well, I'm gonna give you 30 seconds, right? To give me your answer. Is it okay for you?
Yes.
All right, so your preparation time starts now. All right, it's time. So now you have to answer to your instruction using points and examples from the talk. Describe two different definitions of tools given by the professor. So your response time begins now.
Okay. The professor talks about the animals that use different tools. One of the definitions is the object used to perform for a specific task. And the other definition is an object to perform a specific time. One of the examples is about the chimpanzees, and the other is about the elephant. The chimpanzees use I don't know the word.
All right, it's okay. So your time passed, right? It's time. So it was a difficult one, right? Because we have more vocabulary in this one, right? So what part of the listening you couldn't understand?
In the example.
All right. So in the examples, right, you have to do it fastly because you only have 60 seconds, right? So you don't have to give the whole one, right? The entire definition, but a little bit, right? So I said, wild chimpanzees use sticks to dig, right? Bueno, he tratado de dibujar un palo, right? So in this part, wild chimpanzees use sticks to dig. What is dig, right? Cavar es el significado, right? So this was, I'm going to write into the chat, right? If you can see it, please. All right, this was the first example about wild chimpanzees, right? They use sticks to dig, right? Insects out of their nest, right? Until that part, do you get it? Out of their nest.
Until what?
Out of their nest. I'm going to. All right. You know what? I'm going to share my screen. I think this is gonna be the best option. So all right. All right, there you have. So this was we talked about the tool, right? They use tools. What is the definition? So we mentioned, well, actually I mentioned two definitions. The first one was narrow definition, and the other one is called broad one, right? The broad definition. So the first one, it's explained about the chimpanzee, right? So the first thing that you have to do if you don't get it, right? If you don't understand the context, right? Is try to see what could be the proximally meaning for that word that you couldn't understand in the listening part, right? So the narrow definition, all right, we're talking about the tool, right? So that's it, that's the reason, maybe, right, because you only have a minute, right? You could say, the narrow definition says that tool is an object that used to perform a specific task. That's all that you have to mention, right? No necesitamos más porque el tiempo es súper corto, right? Entonces de ahí que ya tienes el significado de qué es un narrow definition, te vas al ejemplo. It says, wild chimpanzees use sticks to dig insects out of their nest. O sea, que agarran un palo que cavan, que en realidad es como una, ¿cómo se dice? Como utilizan palos para cavar, right? Y acá tenemos insectos out of their nest, fuera de sus nidos, right? So, that's all that you have to mention. Hasta esta parte viene el ejemplo, right? Y acá menciona que tiene que modificar, ¿no? Que tiene que masticar el palo, recortar el palo, right? Para que así pueda tener el tamaño correcto y así tener un tool, una herramienta, right?
Yeah.
Ok, hasta esa parte te tendría que tomar alrededor de 30 segundos. Y es unos 25 segundos, calculo, right? So, ahora en la segunda parte ya te menciona la broad definition, que es una definición, broad es un poco más general, right? Says that an object doesn't have to be modified, right? Entonces en el primer ejemplo teníamos que modificar, right? Es decir, que los chimpancés modifican, pero en este no. O sea, la definición dice que no es necesario modificar algún objeto para que pueda ser llamado o considerado un objeto, right? Una herramienta, mejor dicho. Y ahí ya te vas directamente al ejemplo. Por eso es que te dice, for example. Y acá te tienes dos palabras clave, for example, right? Y acá te pide que des ejemplos de cada definición. So, acá tenemos el ejemplo del elefante, right? An elephant will sometimes use a stick to scratch its back. Ese es todo el ejemplo, right? No dice nada más. Después esto ya son palabras de complemento un poco más de información, pero solo necesitas mencionar eso, right? So, now I gave you some points. Can you please try it one more time?
Okay.
So, give me a second. Your time begins now. Oh no, give me a second. All right, yes, it's because it's time, right? We're going to stop it until this part, right? Okay. So, do you have any question, maybe?
No.
All right.
No.
So, please try to send me your audio to my WhatsApp, right? Okay. Me vas a enviar, porfa, tu audio con los puntos que te he mencionado, right? Que solo dure un minuto, ¿sí?
Okay.
All right, thank you, Paul. I'm going to launch the pool, please. Can you feel it? And that will be everything for today. Have a great day. A great night.
Okay, thank you, teacher. Bye.
Thank you, Paul. Bye-bye. Daniel, good evening.
Hello, teacher. Good evening.
Hi, how was your day?
Everything good, teacher. Thanks for asking.
That's good to know. So we're going to start with the class of today, right? All right, we stop, right? I don't know if you prefer I don't know if you remember, I showed you some questions, right? Those questions were independent questions, right? About the TOEFL list, TOEFL speaking, right? So the other one is that the part that we couldn't finish the last class, right? About the biology first, the definition of narrow and broad. Do you remember?
I'm trying to remember, teacher.
It was about chimpanzees, elephants.
That was 3 classes before.
Yes, it was, right? So we're going to start by there, right? I gave you some points. I don't remember very well, but until I remember that I gave you some points in order to answer or in order to give a good answer. Right?
All right, teacher. Sounds good.
So we're going to try it one more time, right? This time I'm going to give you, your preparation time is going to be 20 seconds, right? If I'm not wrong, I gave you more time, right? And your response time is going to be about, well, it's going to last 60 seconds, right? So if you wanted, you can take notes, right? I'm going to start reading, okay?
Okay.
So pay attention to it, please. Human beings aren't the only animals that use tools. It's generally recognized that other animals use tools as well. Using naturally in the wild without any human instruction, but when can we say that an object is a tool? Well, it depends on your definition of a tool. And in fact, there are two competing definitions, a narrow definition and a broad one. The narrow definition says that a tool is an object that's used to perform a specific task, but not just any object. To be a tool, according to the narrow definition, the object gotta be purposefully changed or shaped by the animal or human so that it can be used that way. It's an object that's made. Wild chimpanzees use sticks to dig insects out of their nest, but most sticks lying around won't do the job. They might be too thick, for example. So the sticks have to be sharpened so they'll fit into the hole in an ant hill or the insect's nest. The chimp pulls off the leaves and chews the stick and trims it down. That way until it's the right size. The chimp doesn't find it just fine to stick. It, you could say, it makes it in a way. But the broad definition says an object doesn't have to be modified to be considered a tool. The broad definition says a tool is any object that's used to perform a specific task. For example, an elephant will sometimes use a stick to scratch its back. It just picks up a stick from the ground and scratches its back with it. It doesn't modify the stick. It uses it just as it's found. And it's a tool under the broad definition, but under the narrow definition it's not because, well, the elephant doesn't change it in any way. All right, that's all. So I'm going to share my screen with you. All right, can you see it?
Yes, teacher.
All right, so this is gonna be your instruction. Using points and examples from the talk, describe the two different definitions of tools given by the professor. So you only have 60 seconds, right? Try to give fastly, right? For example, you could mention first the definition because it's short, right? Even in the lecture, it is a short one. So then try to put the example because it's a little bit more longer than the definition. So try to do it in approximately 25 seconds, right? So in that time, we're going to start, right? So your time begins now. Go ahead, please. All right, it's time. Your preparation time, it's done, right? It's finished. So from now, you're going to have, 60 seconds to your response, right? So give me a second. All right. So it starts now. Good luck.
All right. Human beings says that there are two different definitions of tools. A tool is the use of an external object in order to perform any task. In fact, or talking about the two definition of tools, sorry, we have narrow definition and broad definition. A narrow definition is an object, well, says that a object is a tool used to perform a specific task, like sticks used by chimpanzees. And the broad definition says that an object doesn't need to be modified and is any object that is used to perform any specific task. And yeah, under the narrow definition is a positive way, could be modified. And
All
that's all.
right, thank you. Well, you didn't mention the second example of the elephant.
Yes, I
Right.
was about to write that, but there is a lot of information, and even in Spanish, I couldn't do it.
Yes, you know what? I'm going to show you my screen, right? So, all right. The first thing that you have to do is take notes, right? Don't forget about it. All right. Once I understood the instruction, right? You have to see what do you have in your listening part, right? So you have the narrow definition, right? And as I told you, it's very short, right? You could say the narrow definition says that a tool is an object, right? That is used to perform. But you didn't mention that it was an object, right? That's the second point. To perform a specific task, right? All right, until that part. That is your short definition, right? With your introduction and your definition. In this part, could be missing the example, right? So as I told you, we have well, it's a little bit longer, right? Wild chimpanzees, because they mentioned the chimps, right? So you could mention wild chimpanzees use sticks to dig insects out of their nest, right? Until that part. Until that part, if you wanted, right, you could mention the second one, because we have two examples in this part about the narrow definition, right? So until that part, and you could say the chimp, right, pulls off. So we're talking about what could you do if they have any problem like that, right? Because they need to use a stick to dig insects out of their nest, right? So that could be the first part. And then you could mention, we're going to meet this part because it's not necessary at all. It's only, those are wordy words, right? So the chimp pulls off the leaves, all right? You could say until that part, and that's all, right? We're going to suppose that it is going to take you 25 seconds, right? And something I noticed in this last part is that, well, I'm sorry, in this first part, is that you make a little bit of redundance, right? So we have to avoid it. You have to go directly to your point, right? So, and the other one is very short, right? Even though it could take
Yes,
you
I was
first
trying
part.
to be redundant, because if I say what I wrote directly, it could take me 30 seconds.
Yes, yes. So we're going to imagine that in the first part, right, it lasts 30 seconds, right? Maximum, right? So in the second one could be, I don't know, even though be plus your definition, in addition of it, could you take you a lot of, at least of 35 seconds could be, right? And then this one is very short, right? Even the definition is very, very short. So broad definition says, oh yes, and you pronounce it says, right? In the correct one it says, right? Says an object doesn't have to be modified to be considered a tool. That's it. That's all the definition, right? And then we have this example, right? And it's about the elephant. For example, an elephant will sometimes use a stick to scratch its back, right? Until that part. Of course, you can make a paraphrases. It's okay, right? It picks up. All right, we're going to meet that part. And we're going to go directly when it talks about the tool, right? All right, it doesn't modify the stick. So this part, especially this one, it is linked, oh my goodness, it is linked with the definition. So that's the part that is important for us. And it's the tool under the broad definition. And this is wordy phrases, right? Here we have some wordy phrases, right? So because we only have a minute, we're going to practice again, right?
All right.
So don't forget your introduction. It's necessary to be short, right? It's not a longer one. So from now you have a minute. Go ahead.
All right. Human beings says that there are two different definitions of tools. We have the narrow definition and broad definition. Under the narrow definition, a tool is an object used to perform any specific task, like sticks used by chimpanzees in order to dig insects out of their nests, and also the chimps pull off the leaves and chews the stick and trims it down that way until it's the right size. And the broad definition says that it's an object, but an object doesn't need to be modified to be considered a tool. For example, an elephant will sometimes use a stick to scratch its back, and it doesn't modify the stick. It uses it just as it's found.
All right. Yes, that's all. Right. Maybe you had 5 seconds rest, right? So if you have time, because you're going to see a time lapse or there, right? They're going to show you. So if you for example, we're going to see that you have 5 seconds rest. You could say, and that was all about the lecture, right? All about the listening part about the biology course. And with that, you're going to, that's gonna be your ending part, right?
All right. Sounds good, teacher.
All right, thank you, Daniel. So we finished with all the practices that we have, all the speaking, well, lectures actually, right? So do you have any question maybe?
No, teacher. Thank you for the practices.
All right, thank you, Daniel. So keep practicing, please, right? So have a great night. See you tomorrow.
You too, teacher. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Wilson, good evening.
Good evening, teacher.
Hi, how are you?
Fine, teacher. Thanks for asking.
All right, that's good to know. So we're going to practice our speaking, right? So
Yeah.
this is a lecture, right? This is a little bit difficult, a little bit complex because we have a new vocabulary, right? So it's about a biology course, right? It's a biology lecture, actually, right? So I'm going to read 2 definitions, right, of what is a tool, right? So I'm going to start, pay attention to it. Here I go. Human beings aren't the only animals that use tools. It's generally recognized that other animals use tools as well. Use them naturally in the wild without any human instructions. But when can we say that an object is a tool? Well, it depends on your definition of a tool. And in fact, there are 2 competing definitions, a narrow definition and a broad one. The narrow definition says that a tool is an object that's used to perform a specific task, but not just any object. To be a tool, according to the narrow definition, the object's gotta be purposefully changed or shaped by the animal or human, so it can be used that way. It's an object that's made. Wild chimpanzees use sticks to dig insects out of their nest, but most sticks lying around won't do the job. They might be too thick, for example. So the sticks have to be sharpened so they'll fit into the hole and heal the insect nest. The chimp pulls off the leaves and chews the sticks and brings it down that way until it's the right size. The chimp doesn't just find the stick, you could say, it makes it in a way. But the broad definition says an object doesn't have to be modified to be considered a tool. The broad definition says a tool is any object that's used to perform a specific task. For example, an elephant will sometimes use a stick to scratch its back. It just picks up the stick from the ground and scratches its back with it. It doesn't modify the stick. It uses it just as it's found. And it's a tool under the broad definition, but under the narrow definition it's not, because, well, the elephant doesn't change it in any way. All right, that's all, Wilson. I'm a little bit thirsty. I'm going to share my screen, right?
Okay.
So here you have your instruction. Using points and examples from the talk, describe the 2 different definitions of tools given by the professor, right? So you're going to have 20 seconds. As I told you, right, I mentioned 2 different definitions, narrow definition and the broad definition. So I gave you one example of each one, right? One was about the chimp or chimpanzees, right? And the other one was about the elephant. So from now, you are going to have 20 seconds, right? To your preparation time, right? Your time starts now. All right, it's time. So One more time, using points and examples from the talk, explore the two different definitions of tools given by the professor. So you're going to have 60 seconds, I'm sorry, to your response time, right? So good luck, and your time starts now. Go ahead.
Okay. There are two definitions about tools, and first one talks about just a tool can be any object that you can change it, and it uses to do a specific task. And the first example, we have the chimp, and the chimps, they can build some tools using wood and stones or rocks.
All right, it's time.
Okay.
So until this part, you only gave me the first definition, but you mentioned something about rocks, if I'm not wrong.
Yes.
All right, the lecture doesn't mention anything about rocks, right?
Yes, but I didn't. Well, I don't know how to
Maybe the
explain it.
vocabulary.
Yes, the vocabulary.
All right, let's see. You know what? Because you only have 60 seconds, right? You have to be prepared for it. So you have the chance to take notes, right? So try to do it. So you take almost the whole minute, right? Well, actually the whole minute, trying to give me or transfer one example, right? So we're going to see what do we have in this part. So, all right, it's about two definitions, right? Of what is a tool, right?
Yes.
So the first definition, right? It starts by the narrow definition, right? Says that a tool is an object that's used to perform a specific task. That's all that you have to say about the definition, right?
Yes.
Okay, so now we're going to start with examples. What do we have in our examples? Wild chimpanzees, right? They mentioned, and the chimp is the same one, but it's the short one, right? Wild chimpanzees use sticks to dig insects out of their nest, right? What does it mean? They mention about, or well, they use, or they are trying to link, right, a tool with a stick, right? And a stick is I'm going to try to draw it. This is a stick, right? I don't know, could be from a tree, right? Do you get it?
Yes. Yes.
All right. This is a tool, right? That's
Yes.
about the narrow definition, right? So while chimpanzees use sticks, right, to dig, right? Or I'm going to try to draw it, right? To dig, right? They try to keep everything. Tratan de cavar, right? To dig es cavar, right? Insectos, o bueno, tratan de sacar a los insectos fuera de sus cuevas, de sus nidos, mejor dicho, nest es nidos, right? So, hasta esta parte ya has dado un poquito de contexto, right? So, until that part, you have to continue with the next part. Cómo es que ellos trabajan o cómo es que utilizan esta herramienta, right? Para que les pueda ayudar de alguna manera a, bueno, rascarse la espalda, en otras palabras, right? So, lo que está tratando de decirnos es que ellos modifican el palo que finalmente se convierte en una herramienta, right? So, entonces, ¿dónde está? All right. The chimp pulls off the leaves and chooses sticks and trims it down that way until it's the right side. What does it mean? Como que mastica, right? el palo, right? Y lo recorta hasta aquí sería, y lo recorta hasta poder tener el tamaño correcto que le va a ayudar, right? A tener una herramienta, ¿ok? Hasta esta parte, Wilson, ya tendrías que tener un aproximado de 30 segundos a 35 segundos, right? Solo en esta primera parte. Ahora,
Okay.
continuamos con el segundo ejemplo, la segunda definición, que es the broad definition, right? Entonces, tendrías que tomar apuntes acerca de ello. So, este es súper corto, esto nos toma menos tiempo porque es más corto, right? A broad definition says an object doesn't have to be modified to be considered a tool. That's all that you have to say. No necesitas agregar nada más porque vas a perder tiempo, right? So, you mentioned the definition, it's okay. So, let's continue with the example. Well, that's the reason of why we have, for example, and then in the first one we also have, for example, right? For example, an elephant will sometimes use a stick to scratch its back, ¿ok? Ya nos está hablando de lo mismo, right? Que los elefantes con su trompa ya agarran un palo, ¿ok? Y lo utilizan para scratch, es rascarse su espalda, its back. Ojo, mucho ojo con el pronombre o con el objeto que vamos a utilizar. No estoy diciendo his back, right? No estoy diciendo su espalda, su de él. Estoy utilizando su de eso. Por eso es que decimos its, right? En el mismo texto te va a dar el contexto o qué palabras utilizar, right? Mucho, mucho cuidado con eso. Yo no puedo decir to scratch his back, porque no estoy hablando de una persona, estoy hablando de un animal. Entonces le corresponde ser el objeto its, right? Its back. It just picks up a stick from the ground and scratches its back with it. That's all. Entonces, puedes mencionar hasta esa parte, eso ya es opcional, right? Vamos a marcarlo con otro color. Hasta ahí esto ya podría ser opcional, right? Que es cómo funciona el tool, right? And then, okay. It doesn't modify the stick. It uses it just as it's found. Y eso sería todo. Has mencionado lo que te ha pedido la instrucción, que serían las dos definiciones, el ejemplo, que está ligado con la definición, right? So I'm going to try to give you a sample of it, right? So here I go. According to the lecture, or well, we're going to suppose that it's a listening, right? According to the listening, that it's about a biology course, the narrow definition says that a tool is an object that's used to perform a specific task. For example, while chimpanzees use sticks to dig insects out of their nest, right? And how does they use it? The chimp pulls up the leaves and chews the stick and trims it down, that way until the right side. And they mention a second definition, and it's the broad definition, that it's an object that doesn't have to be modified to be considered a tool. For example, an elephant will sometimes use a stick to scratch its back. So that demonstrates that it doesn't modify the stick, right? So it uses it just as it's found. And it was everything about the lecture, and that's all. And it is going to last about a minute, right? I didn't take the time, right? But could be an approximately, right? So
Okay.
you're going to try it one more time, right? Go ahead, please.
Okay. Well, we have two definitions. There are two definitions about the tools. The first definition talks about a tool is an object that we can use it, or an animal can use it to perform a specific task. For example, chimps can dig out insects of their nests. And the second definition, we have the broad definition. That it says that an object it can't be modified to be considered a tool. So, for example, an elephant can take a stick and the elephant can use it to
Each time.
I
All
can't
right.
remember
You have to
the words.
do it a little bit more according to the time. You know what is the good part, that you're going to have a time lapse there, right? Or a stopwatch, a timer you're going to have in your screen. So that's gonna help you in order to see your time. And it's difficult if we don't have the time. I can't show you, right? But
Yeah.
it was okay. But you are trying. I don't know if you're trying to change the words, right? But I noticed that you have too much redundancy, right? We use words like we have to meet that, right? So that's the reason of why I show you my screen. For the next time, we're going to do it directly, right? And it's going to be an independent question, so it's a little bit more difficult because we don't have enough vocabulary for it, right? We're not prepared for it. But when we have a lecture like this, we must take note, right? So in that order, we are going to have more vocabulary, everything, right? So you are going to send me an audio about it, right? If you want it, you can take a screenshot of this, and I'm going to wait for it, right?
An audio teacher explain.
Yes, to my WhatsApp,
Okay.
right? It is necessary to last a minute, right?
Okay.
But please try to avoid the redundancy. Everything was okay, but you need to do it a little bit more faster because of the time, and try to avoid redundancy, right?
Okay.
All right, thank you, Wilson. Good luck. I will wait. I'm going to wait for it, right?
Okay, teacher. Thank you for the practice and
Thank you.
see you tomorrow, teacher.
All right, thank you. I launched the poll. Can you please fill it?
Yeah, I feel it, teacher.
All
I
right,
feel
thank you,
it.
Wilson. Have a
Okay.
great night. See you
Have
tomorrow.
a great night, teacher. See you. Bye-bye.
See you. Bye-bye. Natalie, good evening.
Good evening, teacher. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. Well, I'm a little bit sad because I went to my job, to my other work, right? I have two jobs, right? But it was necessary I couldn't do it because of the university, right? And everything, I had to give up to it, right? So I'm a little bit sad of it. I quit the work, right? So it was a little bit sad because of my friends, but in order to have or to be more organized because it was difficult. But how about you, Natalie? How was your day?
It was good. I feel a little bit bored because I'm here in my home the whole day. But yeah, I'm fine.
So how do you feel?
I feel okay but here in my city it's so cold in the mornings. So I thought I almost catch a cold, but now I'm okay.
Oh, is it cold?
Yeah, it's so cold.
Oh, I
Even
understood
it's
that you were wearing.
yeah, even my city is called the warmest city in the country, but I think it's for the climate change. So it's so sad.
Yes, for sure. That's the reason of everything. I felt the same this afternoon. The weather was it's crazy because I wake up at 5 a.m., right? So it's very, very cold, right? But at the afternoon, it is very, very hot. So it's a terrible weather, but you know, it's because of the climate change.
Yeah, it's because of that.
Yes, we have to deal with it. It's a big problem. So, but it's good to know that you're okay, right? So we're going to start with the class of today, right? I don't know if we practiced with you the lecture, right? It was about, we're going to practice our speaking, right? Practice number 8 is the last one. it's a lecture, as I told you, it's about biology course. I don't know if you remember that it was about 2 definitions of what is a tool.
What is a tool?
Yes, I guess we didn't do that.
Yeah.
This one,
I
using
can't
points
remember.
and examples from the talk, describe the 2 different definitions of tools given by the professor. Do you remember?
No, teacher.
All right, so we didn't do it. So we're going to do it right now. So I'm going to listen. I'm going to read this short lecture, right? And pay attention to it. If you want it, I would recommend it. Take notes, right? So here I go. Human beings aren't the only animals that use tools. It's generally recognized that other animals use tools as well. They use them naturally in the wild without any human instruction. But when can we say that an object is a tool? Well, it depends on your definition of a tool. And in fact, there are 2 competing definitions, a narrow definition and a broad one. The narrow definition says that a tool is an object that's used to perform a specific task, but not just any object. To be a tool, according to the narrow definition, the object's gotta be purposefully changed or shaped by the animal or human, so that it can be used that way. It's an object that's made. Wild chimpanzees use sticks to dig insects out of their nests, but most sticks lying around won't do the job. They might be too thick, for example. So the sticks have to be sharpened so they fit into the hole and in ant hill or the insect nest. The chimp pulls off the leaves and chews the stick and trims it down that way until the right size. The chimp doesn't just find the stick, you could say it makes it in a way. But the broad definition says an object doesn't have to be modified to be considered a tool. The broad definition says a tool is any object that's used to perform a specific task. For example, an elephant will sometimes use a stick to scratch its back. It just picks up a stick from the ground and scratches it back with it. It doesn't modify the stick, it uses it just as it's found. And it's a tool under the broad definition, but under the narrow definition, it's not because, well, the elephant doesn't change it anyway. That's all, right? So I'm going to share my screen. And here you have your instruction, right? So it says, using points and examples from the talk, describe the 2 different definitions of tools given by the professor. So I mentioned 2 definitions. The first one was the narrow definition and the other one was the broad definition. In the first one, I gave you an example about the chimps or the chimpanzees, right? What do they do with the sticks? And the second one was about elephants, right? What do they do with the sticks, right? So from now, Natalie, do you have any question, maybe?
Well, I can understand very well the examples, but I got the definitions, I think.
All right. Yes, don't worry, because it's a new vocabulary. I could imagine, right? It's because of that. Am I right?
Yes, teacher.
Yes, I could imagine, but don't worry. Let's do it, right? At the end, almost at the end, I'm going to show you the lecture, right? And I'm going to explain a little bit of it. So from now,
Okay.
you're going to have 20 seconds to your preparation time, right? So your time starts now. All right, it's time. So from now, you're going to have 60 seconds to give me your answer. Your time starts now.
Well, the text talks about that animals use tools in their environment for different purpose and without any human instruction. And the text gives us two definitions of tool. The first one is an object to perform different tasks. It's the narrow definition, and it gives us the example of the chimps that use sticks to perform different tasks to make their lives easier. And the other definition is the broad, and it says that it doesn't have to be modified, and it is used for a specific task. And for this case, it gives us the example of the elephants. And well, that's it.
All right, thank you. So you improved it very well. Your improvisation was very good, right? But you actually didn't answer at all the question, right? So let's see, how can we do it? As I told you, the first tip that I can give you is that you have to take notes, right? Even if you don't understand the meaning of the word, you have to do it, right? Because that's gonna help you, believe it or not, to complete your speaking or your speech, right? So let's see. It starts, as I told you, it's a biology lecture, right? And we're going to see what do we have in this first part. To your question, right, you have to go directly to your answer, right? So we're going to go to written answer, words like right? No, we don't have it, right? So let's see. The narrow definition says that a tool is an object that's used to perform a specific task. That's all. Then we're going to continue with our example. Wild chimpanzees use sticks to dig insects out of their nest. What does it mean? A stick is this object, right? I don't know, could be from a tree, right? Palo, right? Ellos usan palos, right? Para cavar insectos, to dig es cavar, right? Insectos de sus nidos, right? Entonces sí pueden ya, no sé, tal vez utilizan para comer, I don't know, no nos menciona algo de eso, right? So, hasta ahí vamos a decir todo, right? Vamos a continuar dando un poquito más de detalle porque es un poco más largo este texto, right? So, the chimp pulls off the leaves and chooses masticar the stick and trims it down. So, what does it say? Es como que el chimpancé, right, se empieza a masticar el palo, right, lo recorta en trims, right, de esa manera hasta que tenga el tamaño, and that way until it's the right size, hasta que tenga el tamaño correcto, right, entonces ese es un objeto para él. Then, what else do we have? Hasta esa parte, Natalie, te tendría que tomar alrededor de 35 segundos, no más, porque si vas a decir más ya vas a perder tiempo, right? Ya has completado con lo que te pidió la instrucción. Then, the broad definition says an object. Acá continuamos con la segunda definición, que es the broad definition. Broad es algo más en general, right? A broad definition says an object doesn't have to be modified to be considered a tool. Hasta esa parte ya está tu definición. No necesitas decir nada más. Luego, for example, y acá ya continúas con tu ejemplo, porque no tenemos mucho tiempo. An elephant will sometimes use sticks, o sea que los elefantes también utilizan palos, pero no para cavar, sino para rascarse su espalda, to scratch its back. It just picks up a stick from the ground and scratches its back with it. Eso no es necesario, right? No es necesario que mencionemos. Lo vamos a borrar. Oh my goodness, I'm scared because of the time. I'm trying to do it as fast as possible. So, it doesn't modify this stick, right? Nos está hablando de que no necesita modificar el palo, right? A comparación de los chimpancés que necesitan masticar, remodelar, I don't know, right? Under the broad definition, but it uses it as it's found. Y eso es todo. Con eso, ya esto ya es wordy phrases, es decir, palabras para complementar, right? De llenar, se podría decir. Y con eso ya estarías completando tus 35 segundos, right? Ya puedes terminar, ahora si te sobra 5 segundos tal vez, puedes terminar con and it was everything about the lecture or the listening. And that's all, right? Así que vamos a intentar una vez más. right? So from now, you're going to have 60 seconds, right? Go ahead, please.
Okay. Okay, the text talks about that not only humans use tools, and it gives us two definitions of tools. The first one is the narrow definition that says that a tool is an object that is used to perform a specific task. It gives us the example of wild chimpanzees. They use sticks to dig insects out of their nest. And so this tool has to be modified, and so that's why the chimp pulls off the leaves and chews the stick and trims it down so that it have the right size. The second definition is the broad definition. It says that an object that doesn't have to be modified to be considered a tool. So it gives us example of an elephant that used a stick to scratch his back.
Each time, right? As I told you, the first one, it was a little bit more longer, so that's the reason why I gave you 30 seconds, right? Entonces, Natalie, todo estaba bien, pero si tratamos de hacerlo un poquito más corto por el tema del tiempo, estaría súper bien, right? So, I don't know if you have any question, Natalie, because of the time we have to stop until this part. I'm so sorry.
No, teacher, it's okay. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Natalie. Don't forget the tips I gave you, right? So I launched the poll. Can you please fill it? And that will be everything for today. Have a great night. See you tomorrow.
Okay, teacher, bye. Have a great night. See you.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Larissa, good evening.
Hello, teacher. Good evening.
I'm sorry because of the time. How was your day, Larissa?
Everything good. Thank you.
That's good to know. So we're going to practice, right? Our speaking, right? And this is the one you couldn't do it, right? So we're going to practice it one more time because it's one of the most difficult, right? Or more complex, right? Because we have more vocabulary and new vocabulary though, right? So I'm going to read a lecture, right? You are going to pay attention to it. If you are able to, please try to take notes, right? So I'm going to start. Here I go. Pay attention, please. All right. Human beings aren't the only animals that use tools. It's generally recognized that only animals use tools as well. Use them naturally in the wild without any human instruction. But when can we say that an object is a tool? Well, it depends on your definition of a tool. And in fact, there are two competing definitions, a narrow definition and a broad one. The narrow definition says that a tool is an object that's used to perform a specific task, but not just any object. To be a tool, according to the narrow definition, the object's gotta be purposefully changed or shaped by the animal or human, so that it can be used that way. It's an object that's made. Wild chimpanzees use sticks to dig insects out of the nest, but most sticks lying around won't do the job. They might be too thick, for example. So the sticks have to be sharpened so they fit into the hole and an ant hill or the insect nest. The chimp pulls off the leaves and chooses sticks and trims it down that way until it's the right size. The chimp doesn't just find the stick. You could say it makes sense in a way. But the broad definition says an object doesn't have to be modified to be considered a tool. The broad definition says a tool is any object that's used to perform a specific task. For example, an elephant will sometimes use a stick to scratch its back. It just picks up a stick from the ground and scratches its back with it. It doesn't modify the stick, it uses it just as it's found. And it's a tool under the broad definition, but under the narrow definition, it's not because, well, the elephant doesn't change it in any way. All right, I got tired, my goodness. So that's everything, Larissa. I'm going to share my screen, right? So I know that we have in the text, some vocabulary that maybe you couldn't understand for a reason, but I hope you you take notes, right? So here's going to be your instructions. Here you have using points and examples from the talk, describe two different definitions of tools given by the professor. So to help you, the first definition it was about, do you remember?
Mm. No.
The narrow?
Definition. To narrow. Oh, that's I don't understand. Narrow definition.
In the other
Mm,
one, do you remember?
you want a specific task?
Yes, it was about the narrow definition. But do you remember what was the other one?
No, I don't. I
All
don't
right,
understand.
it was about the broad definition,
No.
right? And in the first one, I mentioned something. I mentioned one example, and it was about the chimp or the chimpanzee, right?
Yes.
And the other one, for the second definition, I mentioned
Mm.
something about, yes, thank you, an elephant, right? Narrow es algo en general, algo, no, perdón, algo específico puede ser, y broad es en general, right? So, from now, I'm going to give you a minute, right? So, your response time, I'm sorry, your preparation time, it is going to last 60 seconds, right? So, using points and examples from the talk, describe two different definitions of tools given by the professor. So you have to mention the examples and you have to mention the definitions of each one. Remember, the first one, narrow definition, the example of the chimps, right? And sticks, right? I'm going to help you with the vocabulary. I mentioned something about the stick. Stick is a tool, right? Tool es herramienta, stick es un palo, right? So, what else do we have? The second definition was about broad, right? Elephant. I gave the example of the elephant, right? So from now, Larissa, do you have any question maybe?
Yes, teacher, I don't understand very well what about
All right,
was the example.
all right. Okay, this is the text, right?
Mhm.
Entonces, te había dicho que tienes que tomar notas sí o sí, porque hay algunas palabras que no vamos a saber siempre y está bien, pero por lo menos anotarlas, cosa de que puedas incluirlas en tu speech, right? Pese a no entender, suena gracioso, pero para rellenar por lo menos les tiene que servir, right? O por el contexto también te puedes guiar. Entonces, mencioné dos primeras partes. La primera era de narrow definition. Como solo tienes un minuto para hablar, you have to mention, te tiene que por lo menos alcanzar o dar el tiempo de 35 segundos para hacer la primera parte, porque es un poquito más largo. Entonces, lo que tienes que hacer según la instrucción es dar ejemplos y explicar qué eran las definiciones. ¿Ok? Definición de qué es un objeto, cuándo es considerado un objeto una herramienta. A tool is una herramienta. So the narrow definition says that a tool is an object that's used to perform a specific task. All right, so until that part, you have the definition, right? So it's done. Then we're going to continue with our example. And they mentioned something about what chimpanzees. What is a stick? Un palo. What is dig? Cavar. Insectos out of their nest. Nest es nido, right? Ok, entonces tienen que utilizar palos para cavar los nidos de los insectos, en pocas palabras. Ok, entonces, pero dice que no va a hacer el trabajo por sí solo el palo, es decir, que tienen que modificarlo, right? So the sticks have to be sharpened. What is sharpened? Do you get it?
To be sharp. Modificado, las herramientas modificadas.
No modificar, sharpened es afilar, right?
Okay.
Entonces tienen que afilar los palos. So they fell into the hole and hill or insect nest. Ok, entonces tienen que cavar los nidos de los insectos. En este caso, ant hill es un hormiguero, right? The sheep pulls off the leaves. Ok, tenemos nuevo vocabulario. What is pulls off? ¿Te puedes imaginar tal vez por el contexto?
Mm, como lo sacaban de su.
Pulls off the leaves, right? Acá leaves no está actuando como verbo, ¿ok? Sino que están hablando de que tiene que como sacar, right?
Ujú.
Tienen que, ¿cómo se podría decir? Tienen que más, sí, como sacar en realidad, right? And choose, right, es masticar, right? Puede masticar el palo, right? Hasta que pueda tener el tamaño correcto para poder meter el palo al nido y así tener, no sé, poder comer, me imagino, los insectos. No estoy segura porque no mencionan en el texto, right? So, hasta esta parte ya tienes tu definición y tu ejemplo, right?
Okay.
Ahora vamos con la segunda parte, que es the broad definition, que es algo más en general, una definición en general. Okay. The broad definition says an object doesn't have to be modified to be considered a tool. Ok, entonces vamos a enumerar. Hasta esta parte ya tenemos nuestro ejemplo y lo tachamos. Acá tenemos nuestra tercera parte, que es la segunda definición, ya la tenemos. Y tenemos el ejemplo que nos dice la instrucción que tenemos que poner. For example, an elephant will sometimes use a stick to scratch its back. Entonces, ¿para qué quiere un elefante un palo? O una herramienta en otro caso, right? Para rascarse la espalda. To scratch its back. To scratch es como rascarse. It just picks up, levantar a stick from the ground and scratches his back with it. And that's all. Es decir, que lo levanta el palo, pero no masca, no hace nada, ¿ok? No es como el chimpancé que tiene que afilar, tiene que hacer esto y el otro no. El elefante solo agarra y lo utiliza como tal cual lo levanta el objeto, es decir, el palo, y se rasca la espalda y eso es todo. Es decir, it uses it as it's found, que lo utiliza tal como lo encontrado. Hasta eso ya te tendría que completar el minuto. Ya has mencionado tu primera definición, tu ejemplo de la primera, tu segunda definición y, ay, ¿qué es esto? Supuestamente eran dos. Y ya has mencionado tu ejemplo de la segunda definición. Te tendría que tomar alrededor de 60 segundos, right? So, we're going to start again. Vamos a intentar hacerlo, ¿sí? Do you
Okay.
get it?
Okay, teacher, I got it.
All right, thank you. Good luck and your time starts now. Go ahead.
Okay, the topic talk about the two definition. In this case, it's a narrow, it narrow, yes, narrow definition. It's about when a tool is an object and that needs to be performed or modified to do a specific task. And in that definition, we can say example with the chimpanzee. They use a stick and they need to modify to do a specific task. In this case, to eat, maybe to eat insects.
It's fine.
And okay.
All right, it's fine. Can you please take a screenshot? Take a screenshot of it, peek of it, because you're going
Okay.
to send me your audio about it is necessary to ask. Do you get it?
Okay, yes, I do.
All right. So, Larissa, nuevamente tenemos el problema de pronunciar la S, right? Puedo imaginar que es por tu acento, como te había dicho, pero no estás haciendo un buen uso de la S, right? En el audio, por favor, trata de mejorar esa parte, right? Tienes ahí el concepto, tienes el ejemplo, la definición, te di absolutamente todo. Entonces trata de hacerlo un poco más rápido porque tiene que durar 1 minuto, right?
Mhm.
Entonces voy a estar esperando por tu audio, ¿sí? If you have any question, please let me know. Because it's time, we're going to stop until that part, right?
Okay.
All right, don't forget, please send me your audio, right? I launched the poll. Can you please fill it? And that will be everything for today.
Okay. See you, teacher.
See you. Thank you. Hugo, good evening.
Good evening, teacher.
Hi, how was everything?
I think it's good all for the moment.
All right, that's good to know. So we're going to finish with the last practice that we have in our speaking part, right?
Right.
And it's about a biology lecture, right? So I'm going to read a lecture about it, right? And if you can, please try to take notes, right? So here I go. Pay attention, please. Human beings aren't the only animals that use tools. It's generally recognized that other animals use tools as well. Use them naturally in the wild without any human instruction. But when can we say that an object is a tool? Well, it depends on your definition of a tool. And in fact, there are 2 competing definitions, a narrow definition and a broad one. The narrow definition says that a tool is an object that's used to perform a specific task, but not just any object. To be a tool, according to the narrow definition, the object gotta be purposefully changed or shaped by the animal or human, so that it can be used that way. It's an object that's made while chimpanzees use sticks to dig insects out of their nest. But most sticks lying around won't do the job. They might be too thick, for example. So the sticks have to be sharpened, so they'll fit into the hole in ant hill or the insect nest. The chimp pulls off the leaves and chews the stick and trims it down. That way until it's the right size. The chimp doesn't just find the stick. You could say, it makes it in a way. But the broad definition says an object doesn't have to be modified to be considered a tool. The broad definition says a tool is any object that's used to perform a specific task. For example, an elephant will sometimes use a stick to scratch its back. It just picks up its stick from the ground and scratches back with it. It doesn't modify the stick. It uses it just as it's found. And it's a tool under the broad definition, but under the narrow definition it's not, because, well, the elephant doesn't change it in any way. All right, I'm so thirsty right now. So I'm going to share my screen, Hugo, and this is gonna be your instruction, right? Using points and examples from the talk, describe the 2 different definitions of tools given by the professor. So in order to help you, the first one was the narrow definition, right?
Okay.
And I mentioned an example about the chimpanzees, right? The second definition was about the broad one, right? It's something in general. And the example of it is about an elephant, right? So from now, do you have any question, maybe?
I got it. No, not question, but
All right. So, all right. From now, you are going to have 20 seconds for your preparation time, right? So the time starts now. And it's time. All right. So from now, you're going to have 60 seconds to prepare, to give me your response, right? Uh-huh.
No, I was looking at pen. Right. Okay.
All right. So from now, you have 60 seconds, right? Your
60
time,
seconds for number ones, only for number one or all?
no, for the whole lecture. Right? You have to give me the definitions of what is a tool, and you have to give me the examples of it. I'm sorry, how can I stop this sound? I'm so sorry. All right. So from now, you're going to have 60 seconds to respond this question, this instruction, right? Well, is it okay?
No, okay, I could.
All right, so your time starts now. Go ahead, please.
I need one change, teacher, about your listen, your reading, because I couldn't find a pen.
I'm sorry.
Could you I'm not sure because it's new this for me. I can hear very well your reading or your listening.
You couldn't hear?
Mhm.
You couldn't hear, you couldn't understand.
Because I need to ask, about your reading, right?
What? I don't get it. Lo único que tienes, ok, he leído, era una lectura acerca de una clase de biología, que es aparte de, es una práctica del TOEFL test, right? Y tienes que responder esta instrucción. Claro que hay algunas palabras que no has entendido, tal vez estás haciendo referencia a aquello. Sin embargo, quiero ver hasta qué parte puedes improvisar o hasta qué parte has podido entender la respuesta y al final vamos a ver cómo podemos resolver, right?
Yes, but I would like to get one. Would you like repeat?
I gave to all the students only once time to do it, right? Because it's the last one and we've been practicing this for a whole, right?
No, I can hear. I couldn't hear you before because I was looking for my pen then.
All right. So if from that part you couldn't listen. ¿Desde qué parte no has podido entender, no has podido escuchar?
I think I heard about chimpanzees. I'm not sure about the weight, pounds.
Oh my goodness. All right. So here I go again, right? I'm not going to read from the beginning, right? I'm going to directly read the second definition, right?
Okay.
All right. So pay attention, please. But the broad definition says an object doesn't have to be modified to be considered a tool. The broad definition says a tool is any object that's used to perform a specific task. For example, an elephant will sometimes use a stick to scratch its back. It just picks up a stick from the ground and scratches its back with it. It doesn't modify the stick. It uses it just as it's found. And it's a tool under the broad definition. But under the narrow definition, it's not because, well, the elephant doesn't change it in any way. All right. Now, is it okay for you?
No,
Why?
I only understood about performance. I don't know about elephant. It's broad. Is like.
So you couldn't understand the vocabulary. That's what you mean. All right. So, well, primero lo que hago es que traten de improvisar. Entonces solo leo una vez, right? no voy a volver a leer porque por el tema del tiempo, right? Como solo tenemos 15 minutos, entonces, bueno, por el... Y cuando leo, les pido a los estudiantes que incluso improvisen. Hay quienes no han entendido nada, pero tratan de improvisar. Entonces, eso es lo que quería, que trates de improvisar. Ahora, si no te sientes cómodo con ello, no puedo tampoco obligarte a que improvises, ¿no? Así que directamente te voy a dar algunos tips para que puedas responder, porque no es que me he inventado, sino que es una parte, es una práctica que te dan en el TOEFL. Pueden dar, puede que sí, puede que no, no sabemos. Nunca se sabe qué va a entrar. Right? Así que, here I go. All right. So, as I told you, right, the first thing that you have to do is understand the question, right? The instruction. Because if you don't, you are going to get lost. So, I told you, right, that you only have 60 seconds to answer to this question, right? I told you, and I mentioned 2 definitions of what is a tool, right? It was a question. So they mentioned 2 definitions. The first one is a narrow definition. What I mean with it, what is narrow, is a specific definition, right? So that's all that you have to know until this part. They only asked you for the definition from the first definition. Once you get it, you're going to continue with your example. And what does it say? We have the wild chimpanzees use sticks to dig insects out of their nest, right? That's your example, right? But we need more context maybe. So that's the reason of where we're going to add a little bit more of context of it, of your example, one more time. And until that part, right? So until this part, it was supposed to take you almost, all right. I don't know what is this? All right. It was supposed to take you 35 seconds to give this short definition, right? I mean, the definition, number 1, and the example, right? The example and the definition, right? So we're going to look by the vocabulary. The narrow definition, a narrow one, means something specific, right? So what is a tool? It's an object, right? That's the meaning of a tool. What do we have? Use sticks. Sticks, I'm going to try to draw it, right? It's this thing, this object, right? That we can find it in a tree, for example, right? We have a tree, we can find it in that one, right? Es un palo, right? Básicamente un stick es un palo. To dig, right? Es cavar, right? Esto significa cavar. Insects out of their nest. What is a nest? Es donde viven los animales, right? Es decir, o los insectos, que es como un nido, right? Hasta ahí vamos a continuar con la siguiente parte del ejemplo. The chimp.
Pero, teacher, but I didn't get that, because what is the purpose? Because I had to answer my ideas.
No,
Or...
as I told you, right? Te dije al principio, lo primero que tienes que hacer es entender tu instrucción. Esta es tu instrucción. Using points and examples from the talk, describe the 2 different definitions of tools. Tienes que describir las definiciones y sus ejemplos. Right? Ok, ¿se entiende la pregunta? ¿La instrucción?
Okay.
¿Vos se entiende? All right. No te está pidiendo tu opinión personal, por si acaso, porque si pones tu opinión personal ya te van a poner un 0 probablemente, right? Por no seguir las instrucciones, right? Ahora, bueno, lo he tenido que borrar, right? Hasta ahí habrías, ya tendrías que tener al menos 35 segundos donde has tenido que mencionar, right? Ay, qué terrible. Tu definición, right? Y tu ejemplo. En este caso te da el ejemplo del chimpancé que usa un palo, stick, para acabar insectos de sus nidos, right? Tendrías que dar un poco más de contexto. Entonces, the chimp pulls off their leaves and chews, o sea que el chimpancé mastica el palo y lo recorta, right? Es decir, que primero quita, pulls off es quitar, right? Es un phrasal verb que significa como quitar, arrancar, right? Mastica el palo, right? Hasta obtener un tamaño correcto, cosa de que el palo puede entrar en el nido, until it's the right size, hasta que pueda obtener el tamaño ideal según considere el chimpancé. Hasta esa parte, ¿hay algo que no se entiende?
What is narrow? No sé qué. The narrow.
I told you at the beginning what is the meaning of narrow. It's something specific. It's a specific definition of what is a tool. Do you get it?
Ah, all right. Ya leí. I didn't
All
even
right.
get-
All right. We're going to continue with the second part. What is the broad definition? Ok, hasta acá ya tendrías que dar, es decir, pasado los 30, 35 segundos no más porque no te va a dar el tiempo. Tendrías que dar el segundo ejemplo, o es decir, la segunda definición, que es lo que te pide en tu instrucción, de qué es, de qué es la segunda definición, the broad definition. What is the meaning of broad? Broad is something general, right? Es algo, una definición general, y la primera era algo en específico, right? The broad definition says, hasta acá ya tendrías que sacar tu primera definición, no más porque no te va a dar el tiempo. Y ahí ya continúas, porque la orden te pide que des ejemplos, continúas con el ejemplo. En este caso te había mencionado el ejemplo del elefante. Sometimes use a stick to scratch. What is the meaning of scratch? Como rascarse, right? Su espalda. Entonces el elefante agarra el palo y se rasca la espalda, pero it just picks up a stick from the ground and scratches his back with it. It doesn't modify the stick. It uses it just as its fun. I'm sorry, I'm without my glasses. I can't read it very well. It uses it as its fun. Es decir, que no modifica, right? Entonces ese es el ejemplo del elefante y del chimpancé. Hasta esta parte ya tendrías que tener todo completo con la instrucción. Es decir, ya tendrías que haber dado tu primera definición de cuál es the narrow definition, right? Says that a tool is an object that is used to perform a specific task. Esta es tu primera definición. Te pide que des ejemplos. Acá está tu ejemplo, right? Acá está tu definición. Ya has cumplido con la primera parte de lo que dice la instrucción. Seguimos con la segunda parte, que tienes que dar la segunda definición, right? The broad definition says an object doesn't have to be modified to be considered a tool. Esta es la segunda definición, right? Y te pide que des ejemplos. Entonces, acá te menciona solo un ejemplo que es del elefante. Entonces, for example, an elephant will sometimes use a stick to scratch its back. Hasta esta parte ya has dado tu segundo ejemplo. Y con eso ya tendrías que concluir con tus 60 segundos que te pide el examen de TOEFL para rellenar o para completar y dar tu respuesta. No hay una respuesta correcta o una respuesta incorrecta. Lo que se califica es que entiendas que hayas respondido a la pregunta. Es decir, solo te está diciendo que es la definición y los ejemplos, nada más. Ambas definiciones y ambos ejemplos. Pero si ya ahí tú incluyes tu opinión personal, no sirve. Está mal porque no es lo que dice la instrucción. Entonces ya ahí puedes ver cómo improvisar. Por eso es que no te había mostrado esta parte porque quería ver cómo improvisabas, pero como no te sentías cómodo con ello, tenía que mostrarte la lectura. Y bueno, en cuanto al vocabulario, es normal que no entendamos cierto vocabulario, pero y de todos modos hay que anotarlos, right? Cosa de que cuando nos sea el momento de dar nuestro speech, por lo menos tengamos una idea de qué tendríamos que incluir, right? So, con eso habrías concluido al dar tu speech, right? So, I don't know if you have any question.
No, teacher. Could you send me this example, please?
Bueno, por el tema del tiempo, right? Porque nos está tomando casi ¿Cuántos minutos nos toca cada uno? 20 minutos casi se está tomando. Lo que vas a hacer, Hugo, es enviarme a mi WhatsApp el audio, right? Tiene que durar solamente 1 minuto. ¿Y cuál va a ser tu instrucción? La misma. Es decir, using points and examples from the talk, describe the two different definitions of tools given by the professor, right? Eso es lo que tú tienes que responder, right?
Bueno,
Ok. ¿Tienes alguna pregunta, Hugo, antes de que me envíes el audio?
no, no teacher.
I'm sorry?
No teacher.
All right. So I'm going to wait for it, right? So please don't forget to send, right? If you have any part of the vocabulary that you couldn't understand, please let me know right now. ¿Hay alguna parte del vocabulario que no hayas entendido? Tal vez ahorita mismo para poder
The problem is not the vocabulary. The problem is I'm not sure with the activity.
What is the
I don't
part
know.
that you couldn't understand?
I don't know what need to say. I don't know. For example, I can get the information about the instructions. For
What
it
part?
using points and sample from the tool. Okay, describe the two different definitions of tools given by the professor.
All right, that's the lecture I read.
Mhm.
So what is the part that you couldn't understand?
I need to find information in the tool, right? And only repeat.
You have to make a paraphrasis as always, right? Es como el otro día que habíamos practicado, Hugo, porque no es la primera vez que estamos practicando. No sé qué parte específicamente no has entendido. Usando los puntos y ejemplos de lo que acabo de leer, tienes que dar describe two different definition of tools. Entonces tienes que explicar lo que el profesor ha dicho, que son dos definiciones. La primera es the narrow definition, right? Tienes que explicar qué es el narrow definition. Y te dice que también des ejemplos. Se ha mencionado el primer ejemplo, que es wild chimpanzees use sticks, es decir, que los chimpancés agarran los palos para acabar los nidos, right? Para acabar nidos de los insectos, y ahí te da más detalles, es decir, que el chimpancé agarra los palos, los tiene que afilar para así obtener el tamaño correcto, cosa de que puede entrar en el nido. Eso es todo lo que te habla el ejemplo. Ahora, dice to, entonces te da otra definición. En esta es the broad definition, que dice que un objeto no necesita ser modificado para ser considerado un objeto, right? Esta es tu primera definición que tendrías que dar. Y adjunto a eso, nuevamente te pide ejemplos. Entonces, for example, an elephant will sometimes use a stick to scratch its back. Entonces, un elefante, ese es el ejemplo número 2. Utiliza un palo para rascarse la espalda, pero que no lo modifica. No es como el chimpancé que agarra, lo recorta, lo afila, no lo sé. El elefante tal cual lo encuentra, el palo lo utiliza y ese es su objeto, right? Esa es su herramienta que lo utiliza en la naturaleza, right? Entonces, esa es la instrucción. Tienes que utilizar las dos definiciones en mencionar, es decir, parafrasear en otras palabras, obviamente con tus propias palabras, right? Puedes utilizar vocabulario de aquí, por supuesto, right? Por eso te preguntaba qué parte del vocabulario no has podido entender. Básicamente lo que se hace en el TOEFL, right? Que te van a dar lecturas de biología, I don't know, right? Te pueden dar preguntas al azar, no lo sé, nunca se sabe, es lo malo que no se sabe qué te van a dar. Adjunto a todo esto, tienes que hacer un paráfrasis, en este caso tienes que parafrasear lo que en este caso la profesora ha dicho, right? Eso sería todo, no sé si tienes alguna pregunta o si está claro ahora.
Más o menos, teacher.
¿O qué parte no has entendido?
No, voy a intentar, voy a ver unos ejemplos en YouTube también.
¿Cómo?
Voy a ver también otros ejemplos, a ver.
All right. Con otros ejemplos, ¿a qué te refieres?
De esta parte, porque es la primera vez que lo veo en el TOEFL, entonces eso. Antes solo era escuchar y luego responder preguntas. Entonces esto es
Claro,
nuevo.
básicamente es lo mismo, solo que no se tiene el audio de estos porque son preguntas nuevas, right? Que yo tengo el conocimiento, creo que son preguntas nuevas. Entonces, no siempre te van a dar una pregunta así de cómo era la anterior clase, no sé si te acuerdas, que tenías 30 segundos para preparar. Lo mismo, el tiempo de preparación es lo mismo. Pero en esta parte ya te están dando un texto académico. Entonces, ellos te van a reproducir el audio claramente, no vas a leer nada, porque ellos quieren ver también cómo está tu comprensión. Entonces, ellos van a reproducir un audio, a eso tú vas a responder, right? La pregunta no siempre es una pregunta, en este caso no es una pregunta, es una instrucción, right? Entonces puede ser variado, tal vez te estás refiriendo a eso, right? Entonces, por ejemplo, si yo estoy tomando mi TOEFL, right? Y me toca Speaking Practice, Question 8, right? Esto es en Integrated Speaking Practice, esto es una académica, entonces es un poco más complicado incluso, right? Entonces, ahí me va a aparecer un audio donde yo tengo que escuchar, es decir, van a reproducir el audio que va a ser esta lectura de acá, que es académica, y claro, voy a estar tomando notas, what is a narrow definition, what is a broad definition, right? Es normal que no entendamos porque claramente son académicos. Por ejemplo, yo no sé nada de biología, no es mi ámbito, sin embargo, tengo que comprender, right? Ahora, una vez que haya terminado el audio, me van a dar 20 segundos para prepararme, para preparar mi respuesta, entonces de eso ya pienso. Tengo 60 segundos para responder, pero ¿a qué voy a responder? No siempre es una pregunta, ¿ok? En este caso, por ejemplo, es una instrucción. Using points and examples from the talk, describe the two different definitions of tools given by the professor. ¿Ok? Entonces me está pidiendo que describa las dos diferentes definiciones de qué es una herramienta y que adjunto a eso utilice los ejemplos que me han dado en el listening, right? Entonces, una vez que ya he preparado mis 20 segundos, mi respuesta que voy a decir, estoy viendo mis apuntes que tendría que haber tomado, empieza el tiempo y ya empiezo a decir, all right, so the speaking, right, I'm sorry, the listening, right, the lecture, puedes empezar, por ejemplo, con the lecture, right? The lecture was about what is a tool, what is an object. The narrow definition says that a tool is an object that is used to perform a specific task. And an example that they mention is about white chimpanzees, right? That they use sticks to dig insects out of their nest, right? But they need to modify this stick. In what way? The chimp pulls off the leaves and chews the stick and trims it down that way until it's the right size. In the second definition, it is called the broad definition, says that an object doesn't have to be modified to be considered a tool. And they mention an example about the elephant. For example, they use, or the elephant use the sticks, right, to scratch its back. So it's not necessary to modify it, right? What does it mean? That it uses it just as it's found. But under the narrow definition, it's not because the elephant doesn't change it in any way. And it was everything about the lecture. And that's all, right? Hasta eso ya has respondido tu instrucción, que era dar las dos definiciones y dar los ejemplos, right? So, I don't know, Hugo, y si ahora ya ha quedado un poco más claro o qué parte te está confundiendo. Hugo?
I was reading. No. I think it's clear now because I was reading, but I think I'm trying to. I got it. I think because
All right. No te
Yes.
olvides que tienes que responder, no siempre es una pregunta. Ya la anterior vez te había mostrado pregunta como que, ¿qué prefieres pasar? Por ejemplo, tenemos el caso de esta que creo que te mostré por primera vez, right? Some people enjoy taking risks and trying new things. Others are not adventurous, they're cautious and prefer to avoid danger. Which behavior do you think is better? Entonces eso es un poquito más fácil porque la respuesta es más fácil, es una independent question, es una pregunta independiente, pero no siempre te van a dar preguntas como estas. Te pueden dar, por ejemplo, como la última, que es una lectura académica. Lectura, porque yo he leído, sin embargo, ellos te van a hacer escuchar un audio académico. No lo sé, como puede ser acerca de biología, puede ser acerca de cualquier situación. Y tienes que estar preparado, right? Porque no, a ellos no les vas a poder decir, pero es que no entiendo, right? Por eso es que estamos practicando esta parte y en realidad es la última, es una de las que considero un poquito más complicadas por el tema del vocabulario y aparte que es algo de biología que no es nuestro ámbito claramente. Sin embargo, no quiere decir que no podamos hacerlo, right? Así que lo primero que tienes que hacer cuando vayas a tomar tu TOEFL, por ejemplo, es entender la pregunta. Si no entiendes la pregunta, vas a estar totalmente perdido, right? Al entender la pregunta o la instrucción, quiere decir que sepas qué vas a hacer. Responder a la pregunta, la respuesta. Nada más. Es decir, yo no voy a dar mi opinión personal porque no me está pidiendo. En cambio, en mi primera me estaba pidiendo que sí dé mi opinión personal. Which behavior do you think is better? Pero no es el caso. Aquí no me está diciendo qué opino de los chimpancés. Absolutamente. Me está diciendo que de las dos definiciones que ellos han leído, que ellos han mencionado, que el profesor, bueno, la profesora ha mencionado, y que de los ejemplos a los que está ligado. Right? So, I don't know if you have any question.
No question.
All right, thank you. That's good to know. If you have any question, maybe about the vocabulary or something that you couldn't get it, right? Please send me a message, right? I'm gonna be on my WhatsApp because I have to add some homework, right? So I'm gonna be on it, right? So because of the time, lastimosamente solo son 15 minutos, entonces no se puede explicar bien, right? Pero es algo que lo venimos haciendo hace tiempo, right? Así que si tienes alguna pregunta, me haces saber, ¿sí? So, I launched the poll. Hugo, can you please fill it? And that will be everything for today. Por favor, no te envíes a enviarme tu audio para estarte corrigiendo, right? Cuando tengas tiempo, pero que no pase de mañana tal vez, right?
Okay, teacher. See you.
All right, thank you, Hugo. Bye-bye.
Bye.